My mother threw cake at me for refusing to hand over my new apartment to my pregnant sister, so I forced the sale of our shared house and had them evicted. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and things have gotten kind of complicated lately. But to really understand, we've got to go back about 7 years ago. That's when my grandmother passed away. She was an amazing lady, and I still miss her a lot. In her will, she left her house to me and my younger sister Addison, who's 25 now. The will was pretty straightforward, we each get half. No crazy legal stuff or anything. When Grandma died, I was 21 and juggling university life, trying to get my degree, while Addison was just 18 and finishing high school. Our mom, Erica, had been living with Grandma, taking care of her during her later years, so after Grandma passed, Mom just stayed in the house. Addison lived there too, which made sense since I was living in student dorms and then in some basic rentals after graduating. I didn't really need the space at Grandma's house, so the deal was Mom and Addison could live there without paying me rent. In return, they'd handle all the bills like property taxes, electricity, water, and general upkeep. It seemed like a practical solution, and I figured I was helping them out. Our dad wasn't around much, he left when we were kids, so Mom raised us on her own. Our relationship seemed normal, not super close but okay. I never thought anything dramatic would happen. After I graduated at 22, I got a job and set a big goal for myself, to buy my own place. I became laser focused on saving up for a home, working tons of overtime, skipping big vacations, and not buying fancy things like new cars or gadgets. My car's old, but it gets me places. My wardrobe's nothing special, but it works. I packed my lunch for work every day and saved every penny I could. It was tough watching friends go on trips or nights out, but I kept thinking about having my own keys to my own place. Earlier this year, I finally made it happen. I saved enough for a down payment on a 2-bedroom apartment that cost $200,000. It's in a decent neighborhood, not too flashy, but safe and tidy, and it really cuts down my commute. Signing those papers was one of the best days of my life. I spent the first month with the keys painting the walls myself and getting the basic furniture like a bed, sofa, and dining set. It took a while to set it all up, but about 8 weeks ago, I officially moved into my own space for the first time. It felt amazing to have something that was truly mine. But here's where things started to feel weird. My mom and sister have always had this kind of odd attitude about my money, like because I'm working and single, whatever I earn should partly be theirs, or they should have a say in how I spend it. Whenever I mentioned getting a bonus at work, my mom would immediately come up with something I could buy for Grandma's house, like a new washing machine. I'd point out that they lived there, so it was their responsibility, but she'd make me feel bad, saying the old one was a hassle. I ended up giving her half the money for it. Addison was similar. Even when she started working part-time, she'd often ask me for small amounts of money, saying her paycheck was late or her phone bill was unexpectedly high. It wasn't huge amounts, but it happened a lot. Her reasoning was always that I earned more than her and didn't have kids or a partner to support. I usually just went along to avoid drama, but it started to rub me the wrong way. Then, about 2 years ago, Addison started dating Walt. He's 26, and after about a year together, he moved into Grandma's house with Mom and Addison. I wasn't thrilled about that. I'd met Walt a few times, and while he seemed okay, he never seemed to have a steady job. He'd talk about looking for the right opportunity or doing gig work, but mainly, he was just hanging around the house. Once he moved in, the requests for me to chip in for household repairs or bills seemed to ramp up. My mom would call, saying the electricity bill was massive or a pipe burst, and I started pushing back, saying they had 3 adults living there and needed to handle their own finances. Usually, she'd sound disappointed in me, claiming I didn't understand their struggles. A few months ago, as I was in the middle of buying my apartment, Addison announced she was pregnant. Mom was ecstatic about becoming a grandma, and I congratulated Addison, of course. It was big news. We didn't talk about her living situation changing. I figured she and Walt would either stay at Grandma's place, there's plenty of room, or they'd eventually move out like most couples do. No one mentioned any other plans. About a month after I moved all my stuff into my new apartment and started settling in, Mom called saying we needed a family meeting. She insisted it was super important, so I thought maybe it was baby related, like planning a shower or picking names. I wasn't expecting anything major. I headed over to Grandma's house that afternoon. When I walked into the living room, Mom, Addison, and Walt were sitting there looking very serious. There was a chocolate cake on the coffee table, which I thought was a bit odd for a serious meeting. Why the cake? So, here's what went down. My mom started off with this big speech about how families have each other's backs and sometimes you gotta make sacrifices. Then she brought up Addison being pregnant and needing support since Walt was hustling to find a job in a tough economy. Addison was sitting there, looking super awkward and just staring at her lap, while Walt seemed really interested in his shoes. Mom then dropped a bomb. She basically announced that since I'm single and have this awesome new 2-bedroom apartment, the fair thing to do was for me to hand it over to Addison and Walt. She didn't ask, she just stated it like it was the only reasonable choice. She even suggested I crash in the spare room at Grandma's, smiling like she'd just solved world hunger. And she threw in that whole family duty and Christian thing, even though we don't really do the church scene. I was blown away. Like, my jaw might have hit the floor. I just sat there in shock, trying to wrap my head around this. Give up my apartment? The one I'd worked 6 long years to buy? Mom went on about how I didn't need all that space as one person, and how perfect it would be for Addison's fresh start with the baby, especially since my apartment was all shiny and new. And yeah, it's closer for Mom to help with the baby too, but still. When I finally found my voice, I calmly said no way. I explained how hard I'd worked for that place, it was mine, and I wasn't just handing it over. I suggested Addison and Walt could keep staying at Grandma's house or find their own place like most young couples do. Well, that's when Mom flipped out. She went from sweet to shouting, calling me selfish and ungrateful, even twisting the truth about the house situation. Addie burst into tears, accusing me of not caring about her or the baby. Walt chimed in with something half-hearted, like he was disappointed. Things got ugly. I kept my cool though, stood my ground, and reiterated that my apartment was off the table. Mom was raging by then, pacing the room, then she picked up a chunk of chocolate cake and chucked it at me, yelling about how terrible I was. Addison was bawling, and Walt was just there, nodding along awkwardly. I calmly wiped the cake off my face, told them we were done talking, and I left. They all kept yelling as I walked out. Mom even threatened to disown me if I didn't agree. Addison was crying about the stress causing a miscarriage. It was like being in a bad soap opera. I drove home covered in cake, feeling numb and then really mad. When they called nonstop afterwards, I just let it go to voicemail. The following week was chaos. My phone was blowing up with texts and long emotional messages from my mom and Addison. They were super dramatic about how I was tearing apart the family. Addison even sent an ultrasound pic trying to guilt trip me. Mom must have rallied the troops because extended family started reaching out with the same guilt trip narrative, but nobody seemed to know the full story about Addison's living situation. It was pretty clear Mom had spun this whole thing into her version of events, making me look like the villain. So, here's the deal. I just got myself a new place, and when the first aunt called to chat, I tried to fill her in on the situation. But she just kept talking over me, saying family comes first, like a broken record. After that, I pretty much gave up on explaining myself and fired off a group text to my mom and sister. I told them straight up, I've made up my mind about my apartment. It's mine, not yours, and I'm not handing it over. Your behavior at the meeting, especially with Mom launching cake at me, and the constant badgering since then is totally out of line. Don't contact me about the apartment again. Did that stop them? Nope. If anything, it ticked them off even more. The messages kept rolling in, so I started blocking numbers, first my mom, then Addison, then the aunts. It was super stressful, and I was losing sleep. It hit me that they really thought they had a claim to my place and pegged me as the villain for refusing. They couldn't see my side at all, my hard work, my rights, none of it. They already had a comfy rent-free spot in a house I partly owned, but that didn't seem to matter. The whole cake throwing scene was about a month ago, and the pestering hasn't let up except when I started blocking them. No apologies, nothing. Their belief that I wronged them only seems to have gotten stronger. I haven't said a word directly to my mom or sister since I walked out, except for that one group text. Their communication has been one-sided, full of nasty messages and demands, with them pulling in other relatives to put more pressure on me. It took me a while to clear my head, but I finally realized this wasn't just a one-off crazy demand. They saw me as a resource, not a person with my own life and property. The whole situation snapped something in me. Their sense of entitlement was so huge that they didn't see how insane their request was, especially since they lived rent-free in my grandma's house, a place I co-owned and helped pay taxes on. So, I made a big move. I went to see a lawyer to help me deal with this mess. Laid out the whole story, showed him my grandmother's will, and he confirmed what I already knew: I own half of that house, free and clear, no special conditions giving my mom or Addison a permanent right to live there. The lawyer explained this thing called a partition sale to me. Basically, if co-owners can't agree on what to do with a property, one can go to court and ask for the place to be sold, with the cash split. It's the usual legal fix for situations like this. So, that's what I'm doing. I've got my lawyer working to force the sale of my grandma's house. If Addison and the others want to stay, Addison will have to buy out my 50% share at its market value, which is about $350,000 to $400,000. My cut? Around $175,000 to $200,000. Given the shaky financial situation over there, I doubt Addison can scrape up that kind of cash, so the house will likely sell to someone else. This means my mom, Addison, and Walt will have to move out and find a new spot, and any sort of relationship I thought I had with them might be done for good. I'm also planning to cut off contact permanently with them and any of the extended family who thought it was cool to pile on the harassment. I'm sharing all of this on Reddit because I need to get it off my chest and kind of want to see if I'm going too far. So, am I in the wrong for doing this? Update: Hey everyone, it's been 2 months since I posted the original story. First up, thanks a ton. I read every comment and private message, expecting some mixed reactions, maybe even people saying I was too harsh. But almost everyone had my back, and the advice was super helpful. It was a relief to know that others saw the situation clearly. It gave me the confidence boost I needed. A lot of you asked similar questions, so let me clear some things up. Some wondered if there was any fine print in Grandma's will about Mom or Addison having lifetime residency. My lawyer checked it thoroughly. Nope, nothing like that. The will is simple: the house goes to me and Addison equally, as tenants in common. No special living rights for anyone. I also got informal home value estimates from real estate agents. Grandma's house, a 3-bedroom detached in a decent suburb, is likely worth between $350,000 and $400,000 right now. So my half would be about $175,000 to $200,000 before any selling costs or taxes. Some of you asked if I ever chipped in for major repairs or taxes on Grandma's house. Over the 7 years, I've dropped a few thousand on emergencies they couldn't cover, like a new water heater one winter and part of a property tax bill when Mom was short. I never asked for it back because co-owning it made me feel like it was fair to pitch in, even though they lived there rent-free. So, here's the deal. I never really handled the regular bills or mortgage because, honestly, there wasn't a mortgage to deal with. Addison's boyfriend, Walt, is still around, but as far as I know, he's not exactly holding down a steady job. He was part of the family drama squad, calling me selfish, which is rich coming from someone who gets to live rent-free. After the infamous cake incident, I sent them one text and then decided to keep my distance. My lawyer advised me to let him handle all the business about the house, and honestly, I didn't feel like talking to them after how they acted. Reading comments online and chilling for a couple of months helped me realize the issue was more than just them wanting my apartment. It was about respect, or the total lack of it. They didn't just want my place, they thought they deserved it. Selling the house wasn't my top choice, but I realized it was the only way to cut ties. Smaller steps, like asking for rent, would probably just lead to more headaches. So, I decided to make a clean break. Finding the right lawyer was crucial, so I searched for someone experienced with family property disputes. Our first meeting was a solid hour and a half of me spilling the story from Grandma's will to the cake drama. The lawyer was cool, asked a few questions, and explained the process of selling my share. Step 1 was sending a formal letter. My lawyer drafted a letter and sent it to my sister Addison and also to my mom just to keep her in the loop. The letter was firm yet polite, stating I wanted to sell my share, which was valued between $350,000 and $400,000, and gave Addison 30 days to respond if interested. Unsurprisingly, Addison didn't reply, but 2 weeks later, my mom sent a long, angry letter accusing me of all sorts of things, like being greedy and making my sister homeless. When the 30 days were up, we went to court. My lawyer filed a partition lawsuit, basically asking the judge to order the sale since Addison and I couldn't agree. Receiving the legal papers made things real for everyone. My mom kept calling my lawyer's office, shouting about family destruction, while Addison managed to get a lawyer through legal aid. Her lawyer tried to delay things and argued that Addison should stay in the house due to her low income and pregnancy. They even suggested I sell my share to her on the cheap or let her pay over ages. My lawyer said those arguments probably wouldn't hold up in court. Now they know I'm serious, this isn't just talk anymore. Although it's a hassle, taking legal action has been a relief. The emotional burden's lifted, and it's now a legal matter being handled by pros. I've blocked my mom and sister, and all communication goes through the lawyers. It's tough, especially with Addison being in her 3rd trimester, but they brought this on themselves. I'm set on seeing this through to the end. It's been 10 months since I first reached out online, asking if I was in the wrong. Wow, It's been about 8 months since I first filled you in, and man, it feels like forever ago when all the legal drama with the house sale kicked off. It dragged on way longer than I ever thought, but, thank goodness, it's finally wrapped up. Over the past 10 months, I've basically been head down at work, just trying to keep my nose clean. I did snag a little promotion, which was some welcome good news amid all the chaos. So, the court eventually decided Grandma's house had to be sold, but it was no quick process. Addison's lawyer was pulling out all the stops to slow things down, filing motions, asking for extensions, and arguing that Addison should stay in the house since she was a new mom with a limited income. They were trying to paint me as the rich, heartless brother trying to kick out my struggling sister and her newborn. My lawyer had to keep explaining that I was just exercising my rights as a co-owner and that their unrealistic demands started this whole mess. Thankfully, I didn't have to deal with any of the short court hearings myself. My lawyer went on my behalf, which was a huge relief. In the end, the judge made it clear, the house had to be sold, and the money split because we couldn't agree. A neutral real estate agent got appointed to handle the sale to keep things fair. But listing the house took its sweet time. My mom and sister didn't make things easy for the agent. They'd mess up viewing schedules and sometimes wouldn't even answer the door. After another warning letter from my lawyer, they finally started to cooperate more, but I doubt they were thrilled about it. The house went on the market for about 3 months and got quite a bit of interest. It eventually sold for $380,000, which was right on target. After all the fees and costs, Addison and I each got $172,500. Seeing that money hit my account was a weird mix of relief and closure. My mom, Addison, Walt, and their baby boy had to move out before the sale closed. They apparently left the house in decent shape, which was a relief. As for me, I'm still chilling in my apartment, feeling like it's my little sanctuary now. That $172,500 is sitting in a high-interest savings account while I decide what to do next, maybe invest it or use it as a down payment on a rental property. Just knowing it's there and that I'm finally free from financial ties with my family is a huge relief. I'm sleeping better and feeling way less stressed at work. As for my family's whereabouts, I've only heard snippets through a distant cousin's social media. Mom's reportedly crashing with Aunt Carol, but it's a temporary setup, and tensions are brewing there. She's been badmouthing me, saying I made them homeless for cash. Addison and Walt found a small apartment about an hour away. That money could really help them out if they play it smart, but knowing Walt's work history and their past financial requests, I'm skeptical how long it'll last. I'm technically an uncle now, which feels strange since I've never even met my nephew. Extended family-wise, those who criticized me have gone radio silent. A couple of younger cousins reached out after hearing more details, but I kept it brief with them. The trust is long gone. I haven't had any direct contact with my mom or sister since the court stuff really started, and they haven't tried to reach out either. Honestly, the silence is kind of nice. Selling Grandma's house marks the end of this whole messy saga. It's been tough and really sad, and it's changed how I look at my family, especially my mom and sister. Our relationship is pretty much non-existent now. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more crazy real-life stories happening around you.